Hey everybody, welcome back into the WSAZ Now studio. We are joined by none other than WSAZ Sports Director Keith Morehouse on this episode of WSAZ Sports Plus because, Keith, we're talking college football as we do on Wednesdays. It's Tuesday for us. Wednesdays, of course, for everyone else as they're watching. First thoughts as you think about the week that was in college football. What did you see out there?
Well, let me start with kind of a topic that's sort of sad for everybody that knew Sean Clark. Former Appalachian State head coach, played high school football at GW, went on to become the UCF offensive line coach, passed away unexpectedly on Monday. Just a really, really great guy in college football. I had gotten to know him doing some games and talking to him, having some conversations with him, and man, what a loss in the college football community. If you spent any time on Twitter this week, you saw all the outpouring of support for him and his wife and now two kids that are left behind. But Sean was a tremendous guy, loved the game, great sense of humor. In fact, when they played Marshall here a year ago in Huntington, I got to meet his parents. Just by chance, I saw two fans walking in, Appalachian State shirts, and I said, hey, good luck, have fun today. And they, hey, well, thank you. Our son's the head coach. I said, you're Sean's parents. And so we had a little conversation for 5 minutes or so, and such nice people. And, of course, Sean and all of Western North Carolina had gone through that flood a year ago, so that was heavy on everybody's mind. But just want to take a moment to say Coach Gibson reached out, Coach Rodriguez reached out. I mean, nearly every coach in college football reached out and with some sentiments about what they thought of Sean Clark. So wanted to talk a little bit about that and just say that we're thinking about his friends and family, and, man, what a loss for college football.
Yeah. You think about people like him, and you lose somebody like that, you don't just see the outpouring of support from the community that they're currently in. It's really the whole college football world that comes together. That's kind of a testament to who he was and his character and what he gave to the world in this game.
Yeah, because, coaching is sometimes a transient business. You go a lot of places, you meet a lot of people, you coach a lot of players. He had been at Eastern Kentucky, UCF. He'd been all over the map and just made an impact on people. And that's what coaches and teachers and, everybody, you hope to make a tenth of the impact on people's lives that Sean Clark did. And so, yeah, I think at this time in college football, it kind of just reminds us all, it's a big game and it's big money, it's big business, but it's about people. And he was one of the best people that you could find in the business, for sure.
Well, you want to talk about the Herd?
Yeah, we could talk about them. It was kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? If everybody stayed up through the 2.5-hour rain delay in Murfreesboro.
You have that this time of year.
Yeah, it happens a lot. It happens on our high school show, too. They came out and struck quickly, and then Middle answered right back with a big-time touchdown run from their best back. What I noticed in the first quarter, and Coach Gibson alluded to that in his press conference, he basically said he was embarrassed by the defense in the first half. Missed a lot of tackles, a lot of arm tackles, a lot of bouncing off shoulder pads and not wrapping up. And then as bad as they were in the first quarter, they were that good in the fourth quarter. I thought they kind of wore Middle Tennessee down as the defense held them, I think, to 25 yards in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And remember, they go into the fourth quarter trailing by 28-21 and then tied it up quickly with a Toby Payne touchdown pass from Carlos Del Rio Wilson. But I thought it showed a little bit of growth because if you remember a couple of weeks ago, they didn't finish the deal against Missouri State. Mm-hmm. And on the road, that's even harder to do. And so I think they grew up a little bit, and I certainly think Carlos Del Rio Wilson separated himself from the pack of quarterbacks. His numbers were phenomenal, 18 at 22, 261. He had as many touchdown passes as he did incompletions, 4. And in Coach Gibson's news conference, he alluded to the fact that Del Rio Wilson sort of has separated himself. Here's a little bit about what he had to say.
He's a competitive kid, loves to play the game, throws his body around, sometimes too recklessly. We got to calm him down on that. But, he's just, he wants it. He wants to be that guy, and he's proven to me over the last couple of weeks that he is that guy.
Being able to take control and just install that confidence that I have within myself into everybody else around me. Like I say multiple times, everybody playing as a unit.
All right, Keith, what do you think it does for a football program to know who their guy is? And even from the fan base's perspective, you can really quit talking about the quarterback conversation now.
Yeah, and that's not to diminish, Ja'Kai Long or Zion Turner. Those guys are going to play. The college football, we've seen injuries already. They decimate programs all the way through the year. So it's not to say they just, those two guys are out of the picture. But what it does do, as you mentioned, it gets confidence in your teammates. He got guys involved offensively that maybe hadn't been a lot involved. Floyd Lacey, he showed his talents. I mean, that guy he's a game breaker for them on offense. Michael Allen played well at tailback. But what it does do is it galvanizes a team around a guy. And Del Rio Wilson has the personality where he loves the attention. He goes out and loves to play ball. And he says, what he tries to do is instill that same confidence in his guys. And I felt like in the fourth quarter they could have pretty much dictated how they scored because they had worn Middle Tennessee down. So I think it does help. In this day and age, as you know, Joseph, there are a lot of coaches that are riding at, a quarterback derby trying to figure out who's going to be the guy. That's not coaches playing games. That's bringing in new guys, and you don't know how they'll respond to the coordinator maybe they haven't worked with, to a whole new bunch of offensive linemen and players. So I do think it helps when they've got an idea, okay, here's the guy, let's go to bat for him.
What do you think was working there in the fourth quarter? It took you 3 quarters to score 21 points. Then you hang just that same amount in 1 quarter of play to win the game.
I think it was a confidence thing. I think they spread it out. I thought the play calling was really good in the fourth quarter. They got guys like Floyd Lacey and D.D. Tamaraz involved, some outside receivers. Toby Payne was already a weapon. He had 2 touchdown catches. And if you get the run game going, and the other thing that Del Rio Wilson brings, he's a big physical guy. I mean, he'll dive into the line. He loves taking on contact. In fact, Coach Gibson says, I think sometimes I got to settle him down a little bit because some of those hits he takes are, they can take their toll. But I think that inspires the offense too. And by that time, I think they had just established physically, that they were a little more dominant than Middle Tennessee, and so I think that worked out for them, and it showed them when they need to go score, they could do it, and they put the game away, which is what you want your team to do if you can.
If you remember, of course, we talked about it, but Coach Gibson last week saying, hey, the woes of Murfreesboro, Tennessee has nothing to do with me in this program. I'm sure the fan base had a sigh of relief to say, man, we went in there and won, didn't we? That feels good to get a monkey off your back, even if it is one that's really non-existent.
And especially in a game where they spent about 9 hours at the stadium. I mean, that was a long day, and you're cooped up waiting for a delay, and then the delay is over, and you come out in the tunnel, and then here comes another lightning strike. They go back. That's difficult on both teams. So to be able to come away with a win in some adverse circumstances is always good for a program. And along those same lines, we were asking him on Tuesday about going down to Louisiana. The last time Marshall played at Louisiana, they blew them out in the conference championship game. And he goes, well, I think maybe we got 3 or 4 guys who were even on that team. So that doesn't matter either.
We don't talk. I mean, I told the guys today, hey, the Sun Belt's starting. We are the defending champs. Really not us personally, but our school, our team. Some of the guys were a part of it. And we have to go out and defend it because there still is a target on us. Whether we have guys that were here or not here. And, so we talked a little bit about it, but not much. I mean, there may be seriously 5-6 people on our sideline that were actually there during that championship last year, Coach Street being one of them. So, it's just different. And it's where we're at in college football right now.
So I like the way he's kind of framing this. What happened in the past is it's certainly historical, but it usually doesn't apply to especially teams nowadays when you got 70 new players.
What do we know about Louisiana? Like you said, a team like Marshall doesn't look the way that they did last year when these two teams last met, and that wasn't all that long ago.
Yeah.
But you still got to go to their house in a night game, 8 p.m. kickoff there in a rematch of last season's conference title game. What do you see in this matchup?
Well, I know that they have players that were there, and they do remember. And they've got pride down there. They've got some really big linemen, big linebackers, with long reaches, and they got some kind of SEC-looking players. So they'll be a test. They lost their starting quarterback in the first week of the season, so that's put them back a little bit. They're 1-3, but a couple of games were just one-score games. They lost by 2 to Rice, and there are some games where they, could have gone the other way, and they could be sitting there 3-1. So it's going to be a test. I mean, it's just about an even game on the Vegas books, and So I expect them to give Marshall everything they want, and their fans will be remembering last year. That was only in December. It wasn't that long ago. So the Herd has to go down there, and as Coach Gibson said, still haven't played 4 quarters. He said in any game. So what he's trying to stress to his team is go play 4 quarters, get yourself another win on the road, then you get to come back for homecoming and you can sit at 3-1, and it's a league game, which makes it even more important.
It kind of feels like a baseball road trip where you have so many games not in your own building for an extended amount of time.
Yeah.
Marshall fans will be waiting to get these guys back at the Joan, won't they?
It has been a while. And then they have an open week, too. So, over the course of, 4 weeks, they'll be gone. Mm-hmm. So, and then you know how fast football season goes. You're looking at that. Now you're midway through the season, and you got a really good, I think, Old Dominion team coming into Huntington. So it's a critical game. And if they can get that one, I think they'd come into that open week feeling really good about themselves.
Any lasting thoughts on the Herd before we move on and talk about the Mountaineers?
Just thought, I think they are growing, learning together. Coaches preach this to us as media and fans. You really don't know what you're dealing with this early in the season, and coaches still are trying to figure it out. I mean, when you got 60, 70, some schools 50 new players, you're trying to develop some chemistry among all those guys. Sometimes it does take half a year, 5 games, maybe even longer. So I think they let that one get away against Missouri State. They should probably be sitting 3-1 right now. But I think they've been taking some strides, and if they keep getting better, then I don't think there's any reason why they can't play with each team in that league. Are they going to win a title? No, I mean that's a little premature to think they can, But stranger things have happened. If they keep improving, they got a shot. So I thought they were impressive in that fourth quarter for sure.
Not many people were talking about a Sun Belt title at the beginning of last year, and
no.
we saw what ended up happening. So you just never know how they'll mesh and come together.
Yeah, that same team developed just as you're talking about. So,
all right, let's move on to WVU. You go from one extreme to the other, right, where you're high on beating Pitt, then you go in conference and get beat pretty soundly, 41-10 at Kansas. What did you see from this game, Keith?
Well, that was, I thought they played similar to Marshall's defense in that first quarter and first half. They missed a lot of tackles. Their special teams play was not good. They gave up a lot of big-time kickoff returns, and then one to start the second half. The guy goes 93 yards, and that kind of made it 27-3. I think that kind of shut the door. It was always going to be a tough game. Jalen Daniels is good. He was very efficient. He's a really accurate passer, and he keeps you honest with the run. And he found some open guys. I just didn't think their defense was flying around like they normally do. And Kansas's defense gave them some trouble. You saw late in the game where Jaden Henderson came in at quarterback, and he brought him some quicks and changed the dynamic a little bit. But now, as Coach Rodriguez said, Marchiol's getting a foot looked at in Colorado today by a foot specialist. So who knows how long that's been bothering him. And he's questionable, and that sounds like it's optimistic. And, of course, their big-time tailback, Ty Edwards, didn't get to play, and he was instrumental in that win over Pitt. So the injury bug has hit them hard already with 2 guys out for the year, Bray and Jaheim White. So this is a tough time for them as they're trying to navigate a really difficult part of their schedule.
We got 11 offensive guys on the injury report. We're hoping Jacob Barrett can come back this week, tight end. We'll see. And then same with Preston Fox. We'll see how he does the next couple of days. So he's questionable too. So, it's kind of a lot. And there's been a couple of really physical games, but it gives opportunities to other guys to come in.
We talked about the injury bug, and it started with that Jaheim White injury 2 weeks ago. Ty Edwards steps in his place against Pitt and is amazing, and then you don't even get him for the Kansas game. Now he's still questionable for this one, and like Coach Rodriguez talked about, plenty of guys are questionable. So it's hard for us to speculate here on this day early in the week who will actually see suit up on Saturday. But my goodness, you want best on best out there, and it's a shame that some of these guys may not get to play.
Yeah, and he even said that. He goes, you go through some years and you're just lucky the injury bug doesn't get you. I mean, you're able to sail through and everybody stays healthy. And then you have years like this. They've already gotten the 2 guys out, and Ty Edwards, we mentioned, that's a hip. Sincere Bowers, the other running back, had a concussion last week, so he may be questionable. And then Landon Livingston, the offensive lineman. So, and they're playing a Utah team, Joseph, that's really good. I watched them just annihilate UCLA earlier this year, and I was really impressed with that quarterback, Devin Dampier, transfer from New Mexico. They also brought his coordinator with him. So, that's sort of a trend in college football. Go get the quarterback, bring his coordinator in too, and then he already knows the offense. So, Utah's a really good team. They got humbled a little bit by Texas Tech, but that was close for a long time. So that'll be a test in Morgantown. I think the atmosphere will be really good because the Utes are good, and West Virginia fans want to, atone for what happened last weekend.
Offensively, they've changed a little bit, obviously, with the new coordinator and the new quarterback. They're a lot more spread, doing a lot of different quarterback run stuff, and really creative. And everybody, I know everybody, Dampier, everybody was looking at him. Because he was a dynamic player last year at New Mexico.
Whether or not last week's result for the Utes has anything to do with the way they're approaching this game, you got to imagine they're ticked off. I think that was a big noon kickoff situation out there for them, and you lose in your own building. Well, here's another in-conference opponent, and you got to go to their place. So Utah, you would think, wants to get off the schneid just like WVU does.
Yeah, and you're seeing now in that league some teams that have kind of separated themselves. Texas Tech looks really good. I mean, Kansas State looks good. Iowa State looks good. Then you got Utah playing really well in Kansas last week. So I think the jury's out. I think it's a really balanced league at the top. There's going to be a kind of a logjam up there, I think, for who's going to take this league. But there's plenty of football left for West Virginia. They just got to figure it out. And, I don't know if he was going to start Henderson or play him a little bit more, but that does give them a change of pace quarterback. So maybe this is the time to do it and see how he does, with the lights on.
Some call it America's Conference because the Big 12, it just feels like top to bottom, any one of these teams at any given time can beat the other. And there were a million different preseason conference championship picks because you just don't know who's going to be good.
Yeah, and just like last year, Arizona State played so well, and
nobody picked last.
Nobody saw them coming. Yeah, and they're coming up on the schedule. So, just a tough league to predict, and that's why coaches and that's why Coach Rodriguez stresses every week. You got to get better. I mean, you just got to keep getting better because if not, you'll get left behind in that league. It's a really, really good football league.
Let's turn the page to the Ohio Bobcats. Hadn't seen them since they played in Columbus there a week ago. They're 2-2 now after beating Gardner-Webb 52-35. Quite a bit of points on the board. From the defensive standpoint, you probably feel like, man, OU should have been a little bit better. But the offense doing what you would expect to an FCS opponent.
Yeah, and it's not that you excuse that kind of effort, but look at how they started. Started out with Rutgers, West Virginia, Ohio State, and now they get the FCS team in. That's a natural tendency to just kind of let down a little bit and think you're just going to roll it out there. And Gardner-Webb, kudos to them. They hung with them and made them wake up. And Ohio did that in the second half. Bangura does what he does, 123 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the receiver Hendricks is really coming on, making an impact as he did in Columbus a week ago. But I imagine Coach wasn't real excited about that effort and gave him a little bit of a talk in the locker room afterwards after that one.
Yeah, but at least if you're somebody like Hendricks, you probably got some pats on the back. He's the NCAA receiving yards leader as it stands this week. So who knows? Some schools have already had bye weeks, and so maybe it's a guy that's played 4 games versus most that have only played 3. I don't know, but he's having a heck of a year. He's got the home run hitting ability, so a lot of his catches for touchdowns are going a long ways. He's not one of these slot receivers that catches 10 balls a game for 50 yards.
He's gonna show that Ohio State clip to his grandkids, 30 years down the road.
You're not kidding.
When he went for 67 yards. Good for him. And Navarro's, of course, playing really well. He's so hard to defend, and they got the good running game, and their defense has been stout. They're going to be right there in the thick of the MAC and maybe the favorite right now as we look at it.
Well, here comes MAC play because Bowling Green comes to town, and you talked last week about how Bowling Green at times, at least when you go up there, it's difficult, but Ohio gets them in Athens this week.
Yeah, and they're always going to play you physical and tough, and they line up in their Cleveland Brown look-alike uniforms, and that's sort of the kind of game you're going to get. It's going to be physical, which Ohio, I think, can play with them physically, so that's not going to shock them. But they can't play like they did against Gardner-Webb in that first half. But being at home, Bobcats are 10-point favorite or so. You would think they keep the train rolling. They've been playing really well in this first 4 or 5.
It is a new look Bowling Green. You know who their head coach is these days?
Yes,
Eddie George.
That's right.
Heisman Trophy winner. We'll see what he can do on the Payton Stadium sideline. Hopefully he doesn't put it on the Bobcats.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have any eligibility left.
No, he doesn't.
Ohio's
Thank
lucky.
God he's not playing running back.
And he could run.
Shoo-wee, that would be tough.
Yeah.
Let's get to Ohio State and Kentucky. We can't spend a whole lot of time on them because neither one of them played on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But Ohio State has their first road test of the year, and you start conference play. You're out at Washington at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday. What do you think about this point spread? It's a little less than 10 points.
I was a little shocked when I saw it, to be honest. I mean, the Buckeyes got the break. They are going cross country. There's always that consideration. Washington, Seattle's a tough place to play, and they've scored 70 one game and 65 in another. So they can put up the points. Now, that's not playing Ohio State. But, yeah, 10 points, I thought, okay, maybe Washington's got a little bit more than we think.
Well, how quickly sometimes we forget just how good Washington has been in years past. Now, of course, that was Kalen DeBoer era, and you're talking 2-3 seasons removed, but they were playing for a national championship not so long ago. So I'm sure plenty of the guys that were on that team are still around. They've got talent out there. Washington is no slouch. So you start to think about it that way, you kind of understand maybe there's not nearly as much separation between these two teams.
Yeah, and you know what? You also look at it's the first road game for Ohio State, and it's the first road game for their quarterback, Saying. He's a young guy. Now, it's fine when 95,000 are cheering for you at the Horseshoe, but now when you're in the enemy territory, it's a Big Ten game. They're going to be loud. I mean, it's going to be a real test of how he responds to an adverse environment that they're going to have in Washington, and that's a loud place. Tough place to play. If they can get up early and make him a little jittery, that's going to be a factor, I would think.
I believe up to this point he's leading the NCAA in completion percentage. That means he's been feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
He won't feel comfortable in Seattle with those people screaming and yelling at him.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do as a defense. If you're gonna get to Ohio State at all, you have to rattle him and get him off his spots. Because if he sits back there and finds Smith and some of those talented wideouts, and he's got all day, then he can pick you apart. But if I'm a coach, I'd gamble and say, all right, let's go try to get him, and if he beats us, he beats us. But in your own house, that's a little harder to do. So I imagine they'll try to get after him a little bit.
Let's go to Kentucky. They were off last week, just like Ohio State, and here comes 2 road games for them that are going to be tough. I know that South Carolina has not really lived up to their preseason billing, but it's never easy to play a night game in that stadium down there in Columbia, South Carolina. What do you think about the Wildcats and their chances against Shane Beamer's group?
Yeah, I mean, they had the week off, so they got to rest up a little bit. I'm not sure if a week off that early in the year is beneficial, but they get their, they've had some quarterback issues banged up. But Cutter Boley is going to start again. I think Coach Stoops, I know he said that in his news conference, and he says it's not really that he's just taken the job away, but because of injury concerns, and he played pretty well enough to get another look at it against South Carolina. It's a tough atmosphere. They get 80,000 down there at Williams-Brice, and and South Carolina's going to be a little upset. They lost last week. So, in the road on the SEC, it's never, ever, ever, ever a gimme. I don't care who you are. So it's going to be a tough game.
What an opportunity for Cutter Boley, though, because if you go into Williams-Brice Stadium and win, I think it would be hard to maybe not throw him back out there at Georgia next week.
Yeah, and you want to give him a shot. And the Wildcats have had their troubles in home games in the SEC. I think they've lost 8 in a row at home. But you go on the road and get one, you're right. That'd get their confidence going back. And, they've lost 2 in a row, lost to Vandy and Missouri, South Carolina. So they're not feeling that great about themselves. But it'll be a tough game. Like you said, night game down there, those are even tougher than the day games.
One additional note that you and I spoke about before we clicked record, and that was another highlight in the Commonwealth, Ashland's Braxton Jennings scoring his first collegiate touchdown for the Louisville Cardinals. What do you think about that?
That's pretty cool. The route he has taken to get to what his dream is, to play college football and to be able to score for Louisville. That anytime we watch this throughout the year, these local players who go on to play Division I football. What a thrill. And for him to hit the end zone, man, that must have been ecstatic for him.
We mentioned Cade Wolford on here, the Jackson grad who's been making noise at Kent State. I talked to Andy Hall before the Ironton game on Friday. I was like, man, how about Cade Wolford? And he was just beaming, because you see somebody that grew up in your program, in your town, that's living out a dream. It's pretty cool, pretty special.
Yeah, we see Reed Carrico every weekend in West Virginia doing his thing, and Nathan Totten at Marshall, the punter. They brought him out to the media. It was good to talk to him again on Tuesday, and the Carry-On Martins and the Cannon Lewises, and it's fun to watch those guys. Because I think our region sometimes is under-recruited, and it's not anything that's a stigma. It's just, there aren't that many people that live in West Virginia or Southeast Ohio or Eastern Kentucky, and so recruiters sometimes don't get over to those games. But when these guys get their chance, take advantage of it. It is so cool to see them succeed, for sure.
Anything else, Keith, in the wild world of college football? I mean, we're about a fourth of the way into it now.
Well, we're seeing college coaches get the hook a little earlier. We saw
Gundy
Brett
gone.
Pry at Virginia Tech gone. Mike Gundy gone after he did his Tuesday news conference at Oklahoma State, and he he basically built that program, but they have fallen on hard times. I think, Joseph, what it is now is an indication fans, administrations, universities are saying, if we're going to pay this money and we're paying players and we're giving you the NIL money, we expect a quicker return on our investment. And so they're not maybe being as patient. And if teams aren't as competitive as they need to be to compete in a league, I think you're seeing these coaches get the hook a little quicker. And I don't think that's necessarily great for college football. Gundy's done, a world of good out there in Stillwater. But and Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, after he left, they all of a sudden found $50 million that they're going to spend on the Virginia Tech athletics program. So if that goes to NIL, Coach Pry's probably got to be saying, well, where was that when I was there? So, yeah, it's what you're seeing is the economics of the game tied into the competitiveness and the on-field product, and some athletic directors and school presidents aren't as patient maybe as they used to be.
I was thinking about the Mike Gundy news today, and I'm not some Oklahoma State fan, but I've always thought that he was kind of a colorful character in college football and kind of, maybe eccentric at times, and I was just kind of like, man, I hate that it ended this way for him.
Yeah.
At his alma mater.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't he play there?
Yeah, he did. He was a good player there. And you're seeing guys like that. I mean, Dabo Sweeney at Clemson comes out and a little contentious in his news conference because they're feeling the heat. Not to say that they shouldn't be asked tough questions and they should be able to handle them, but I think this is all going back to what these coaches think about NIL, and this is the world they live in now, so they either have to adapt to it or you're going to be left behind. But a lot of them, philosophically don't really agree with the premise. Wait, I'm going to pay him before I see what he does? I like to see guys, they're old school. They want to see guys move up, from freshmen to special teams to starters. No one has that kind of patience anymore. So that's the one thing I gleaned from all this is that these coaches, the leashes are a lot shorter than they used to be.
And not that we're feeling sorry for him, but a lot of these guys got into it because they love coaching football.
Yeah.
Now you're in a spot where you're kind of a general manager at the same time, too. I know some schools are hiring GMs.
A lot of them have them.
And that's probably the route we're going where everybody's going to have one at some point. But, man, these college coaches have a lot to juggle all of a sudden, and it's more than just X's and O's out there and player personnel.
Yeah, well, we talked about Sean Clark at the beginning of this, and the impact you make on young men's lives. Can you do it in 1 year like you used to do it in 4 and 5 years? I mean, that's how you built those relationships. And I don't know if you're just going to have kind of players who are jumping the boat to the next good program out there. Can you establish those kinds of relationships? I don't think you can, but like you say, you're asking these coaches to kind of change the way they think, and that's tough sometimes when guys have been doing it for 30 years.
And you're getting pulled in numerous directions now, at least depending on where the money's coming from, because that is – recruiting at one point was the lifeblood of college football. I think to a certain degree it still is, but you're starting to get into more not talent development, but talent cultivation becoming the lifeblood of college football, and that's pulling from other places and not the high school ranks.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It affects high school recruiting. A lot of kids don't have as many opportunities as they used to, and then you're seeing some of the the G5 programs watch their guys develop for 2 or 3 years, and someone comes in and swoops them up and takes them away. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and I don't know what the answer is, but
somebody smarter than us better figure it out.
I told you I'm all for a portal fee. You go in and you get a player out of the portal, you ought to pay a fee. And if that's the previous school, I don't know how you work it. Let the mathematicians and economists figure that out. But I think there should be some kind of remuneration for these programs that develop these kids, and then they're gone. But I don't know if everybody's listening to me. That's for sure.
Well, until then, we'll just keep talking about it and covering it the way that we do.
It's still fun, man. I still watch the exuberation of these players after games, and you talk to them, and they're still 20-year-old kids. I mean, that's still, the fun of it, and just the, how joyful they are afterwards. That part hasn't changed. Just the economics of the game have changed a little bit.
Well, Keith, we always appreciate you offering your expertise and, of course, your knowledge of the game, your thoughts on the game.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we'll bring you back up here next week. Remember, folks, this thing is at 9 o'clock now. So pin that in your calendar as well. Jimmy said he was going to have to set an alarm every night.
Well, he falls asleep watching TV sometimes.
He must. He watches a lot of TV.
He certainly does.
So 9 o'clock. Thank you, Keith.
All right.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yep.
All right, that was Keith Morehouse, WSAZ Sports Director, joining us up here on the WSAZ Now studio. Remember, 9 o'clock on Wednesdays for the college football program. Same place, though, WSAZ app or wherever you have it. Appreciate you joining us. Keep watching and sharing the clips. We're going to be putting things out on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok, all the places that you already are. But we hope that you'll join us for the stream each Wednesday night at 9 o'clock as well. For now, we'll see you next week. This has been WSAZ Sports Plus.